It's time for the 9inningknowitall.com live, well, not radio, but video broadcast.
Clubhouse chatter.
Here's Norm.
At Erickson Studio.
There you go.
Good morning, know-it-all. So once again, this is Norm. So, hey, catch the previous show with Brad Horn from Baseball Hall of Fame. It was pretty cool chatting with him and, gave us some insight on what goes on at the Hall of Fame and whatnot. So my second guest for the day will be Peter Caliendo. And Peter Caliendo is, I don't know, a super coach. Can you have a super coach? If anybody would be it, I think it'd be Peter Caliendo. He's got quite the background in international baseball. He's also got Caliendo Sports International, which is a multi-sport company which focuses on the development of coaches and players globally, offering opportunities for players and teams to compete all over the world. And so he's got a couple of deals going on to where they're going to like Brazil and the Dominican Republic. So he has done a ton. Peter Caliendo, I think we have a shot of him in a USA Baseball uniform. He also works with USA Baseball. He also works with other countries, Belgium, China, and whatnot. Big international guy. And so Peter will be calling in here in a few. And check us out at www.9inningknowitall.com. We've got the blog where Josh Kelly and I pretty much just rant and talk baseball. We cover anything from baseball card reviews to stadium reviews to the hot dog you will eat at Salem Kaiser Volcano Stadium. And, we have a passion for the game, and we talk about everything that's associated with. So we also have some product available for sale from our sponsor. Checking out my 9-inning know-it-all hoodie here from MDM Designs. And Mark Canham over there in Lebanon does a great job for us. And we're proud to have him on as a sponsor, as well as his son, Mitch Canham, with basebypros.com. And Mitch currently is in spring training down in Florida with the Washington Nationals. He is a catcher in their organization, and he does basebypros.com. You can go on for a minimal fee. I believe it's like $49 a year. You can go on and get coaching. You click on a certain link if you need help with pitching or hitting. You can get that. And he's got quite a list of pros, including Eric Sogard, Nerd Power from the Oakland A's. I believe he was a finalist in the MLB Network's Face of Baseball. I believe he ended up losing to David Wright in the final, but Eric Sogard, one of the faces of the MLB. So we're also going to do a quick giveaway. Let's see who's listening and who's watching out there. There's a couple of ways you can win. You can email me at normbo18@gmail.com with your answer, or you could go on a 9-inning know-it-all Facebook page. And I have a hat on. And whose logo is it? So you got the little white M up there, and tell me what team it's from. And no hints. That's all I'm going to give you. I will give you one hint. It is not the McMinnville High Grizzlies. So that is why I wear it, though. But if you go on Facebook and shoot me a message or email me with your answer, first one who does so, I will give you 2 9-inning know-it-all shirts. So courtesy of Mark at MDM Designs over in Lebanon. And so he has a Facebook page. Check it out. So we are also associated with the Highway 30 Music Fest, which will be happening June 12th and 13th over in Fighter, Idaho. Go check it out. highwaymusicfest30.com, highway30musicfest.com. They also have a Facebook page as well. The Friday night of the Music Fest, Little Texas will be closing out, and then Saturday night, Mickey and the Motor Cars we'll be closing out, and it's going to be a blast. I think we have 15 or 16 bands lined up for the Music Fest there at the Twin Falls County Fairgrounds. So check them out. If you want to buy tickets, tell Gordy Norm sent you, and maybe Gordy will give you a discount. Who knows? So, but we'll be there, and so there you go. Highway30musicfest.com. So Peter Caliendo will be coming on here soon, and waiting for him to give me a jingle. So hopefully, Peter
seems like he's got a busy Saturday morning.
Peter's in Chicago.
Well, he's got a busy Saturday afternoon.
Yes, yeah. So maybe I'll call Peter.
There you go. We'll just kind of do. It's the beauty about live streaming. You can do whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Yes. So let's go Peter Caliendo.
It's a nice McMinnville hat you do have on, though, by the way.
Yes.
Oops, wrong again.
Yep. Wrong guess right there.
Pete Caliendo.
Peter, good morning. It's Norm with 9 Inning Know-It-All. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I was just dialing, too. Amazing. Hang on. You there?
I am here.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry about that.
Not a problem.
I wanted to make sure I get my headset on. I'm on the cell phone. Does that sound okay?
It sounds perfect.
Okay, great.
So with me today, I have Pete Caliendo, and Pete is a super coach. If you don't see too many super coaches happening very often, but Pete, you have quite the international background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I don't know about super coach. I think we all think we're super coaches at one time or another. But no, basically, I've been in the game about 30 plus years, was very fortunate, and you and I had discussed it over the internet also. I was under the tutorship of Dick Birmingham from Springfield, Missouri, and I learned a lot from Dick, and he's the one that got me involved internationally a long time ago. So basically, I serve on the International Baseball Federation's technical and tournament committee, and that's basically your governing body worldwide, that runs the Olympics, the Pan Am Games, the World Cup. So I've been fortunate to be on that for about 15 years. So obviously, I have the opportunity to see the game on a larger scale. Then I travel the world also with the International Sports Group, a nonprofit group who trains coaches for the last 25 years around the world. So that also gives me a large perspective of what kind of coaching is out there. And then in my own business, Caliendo Sports, I take teams competitively, or just for fun, depending where we go, all over the world again. And for players, all ages who just want to have a nice experience culturally and see something else different as far as baseball is concerned, and compete at the same time. And we've got great coaches on staff. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm currently doing right now. I was a former national team coach with USA Baseball. One at the professional level, but also at the 16 under level. Currently, I head up the region, 5 states, what's called the Great Lakes region for USA Baseball, and that's identifying national team players starting at 17 years old all the way down to 12 years old.
Wow. So I'm in Oregon, and in our neck of the woods, we have Scott Brocious, who's the head coach at Linfield College, who coached the U18 team for the last couple of seasons. And so we kind of have that in common. So do you have a favorite place that you have been to?
I'm sorry, do I have what?
Do you have a favorite place? I mean, a favorite place that you have been to in the world, whether it be...
Absolutely. There's obviously several. If I'd have to pick one from the baseball perspective and the culture, would be Japan by far, because I think we can learn a lot from the Japanese on how they train. they also, they might overtrain a little bit, and there are ways that you can't overtrain, but they do take it to the max. And I think Japan has a lot to offer, and they've got a lot of great players, but they start them young at young ages, and they focus. I think it's good because they focus on the fundamentals at a very young age. They don't really focus on the winning aspect as much early on.
Right. So, how is baseball internationally? I'm blessed. We started interviewing. I probably interviewed half the Israeli WBC qualifying team, and baseball. With Nate Fish over there in Israel, baseball is going crazy over in Israel, and it seems like to me, other guys I've talked to, that it's going crazy worldwide as well.
Yeah, matter of fact, I happen to be at the World Baseball Classic working with La Russa. Was very fortunate to do that, and I saw the Israeli World Baseball Classic team firsthand. And yeah, baseball is growing tremendously all over the world, and that's one of the topics out there right now. Is the International Baseball Federation is trying to get baseball back into the Olympics. A huge mistake. This is a personal opinion. Of not having baseball in the Olympics, because of the fact that the global, readership, not readership, but television, people who watch or play the game. I mean, it's in the billions. It's a lot of people. I'm not sure they did their homework on that. So I'm hoping that we can get it back into the game. Every time the game is introduced to kids in a school at a particular country, whether it be in Europe, all over Europe or anywhere else, the kids love the game. The key is for baseball itself is to make sure whoever's introducing that game, which is normally the coaches, that they're trained extremely well, because baseball, as and I think our audience understands it too, is that it's not a whole lot of fun sometimes, and then it's not fun because you're standing around most of the time. You look at most sports, there's always action, there's always movement. So baseball coaches have to be very special in understanding how do we keep our kids interested in the game or in practice all the time. And there are ways to do that. We just have to educate our coaches. So the game will grow even bigger if we focus on that avenue. But baseball worldwide is 120 countries playing, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So you have worked with the Belgium's national team. How is baseball over there in Belgium?
It's pretty good. It's not bad. In Europe in general, you have the top teams, top three teams right now, and they've been there at the top, and I think other countries need to follow what they're doing. There's been Italy and Holland, especially Holland also, then Germany. And if you look at those programs, you see great educational programs, where all their coaches are educated, certified, or have to go through some kind of training. And then you have a lot of other countries that are up and coming. Belgium is very small and has to compete, and they've done a good job for being their size. And I was there a long time ago, so I made a lot of mistakes when I was there and learned from them also. So I think Belgium will continue to get better.
I'm really excited. We at 90 Know It All. We've done some interviews with some Dominican guys and some Israeli guys, and you can definitely see baseball growing worldwide, and it's pretty exciting. We're excited to be part of that Israeli crowd, and what Nate Fish is doing over there. I got some baseball cards getting ready to go over to Israel so he can give out to the children as he's going to different schools and stuff like that. And it really is exciting.
And that's one of the things that you see around the world is that when you travel around and work with players or coaches, especially young kids, you bring out the baseball cards, they love them. And from a coaching standpoint, that especially young kids, that's an incentive, because you could use that as a give or take. If they're doing something well, you pass out a baseball card because they love it. If they're not hustling or maybe not paying attention, you also can take that baseball card back. So it's like a game.
Absolutely.
So it's. I think that's great. You guys are doing that, and then you're going to see Israeli baseball getting bigger and bigger. You notice the World Baseball Classic how many players are playing minor league ball and major league ball.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you got countries like Brazil. I mean, who knew? I mean Brazil. They're doing pretty well. It's exciting times.
And you also look at the Dominican Republic. You mentioned that the Dominicans obviously outstanding. I mean they're. I think I'm pretty close, but there may be about 11 million people, 11 or 12, I think, and I might confuse that with Cuba sometimes. But both of them, I know the Cubans have about 11 million, and they have about 4 million who play baseball, which is a large ratio. Large ratio compared to ours. Ours is 300 and some million people, and amateur players is about 26 million. So the Dominicans are outstanding, and you see the draft every year. There's 300-400 Dominicans being drafted every year, Latin players in general, but a lot of them are Dominicans.
Yeah. How is baseball different internationally than the United States? Watching the World Baseball Classic, it seems like it's totally different. I mean, national pride is on the line for a lot of these countries. You see the Puerto Ricans, they're playing for a country, but it seems a little bit different for the Americans.
Well, there's no doubt, and I think we understand that from the standpoint, America is a melting pot. So because it's a melting pot, you really don't have that traditional American backing. Where most of these other countries, you take Mexico or Dominican or anywhere, those are all people that are born in Mexico. So they take a lot more pride, and they're a lot more used to it internationally because they have competed more than we have internationally. And also our media doesn't pick it up as much because, you've got Major League Baseball in the States. So the media doesn't pick it up as great and, produces shows that to our people and gets that national pride going. We had it in hockey. You remember that? Mm-hmm. But again, hockey wasn't. It's interesting. Hockey wasn't our sport, but yeah, we had that national pride. When the college guys beat the Russians.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in baseball you don't see that, and that kind of that hurts because baseball's done a lot of great things in the game, and you take our national team at the AA, AAA level, which played in the World Cup. They beat Cuba for the first time at the Olympic qualifier in Havana. But that you come back to the States and you really don't hear about that.
Right. So
now from a playing standpoint, there is a difference also. Most countries will follow a lot of things that the Americans have done to develop the game, or also to how they play the game. But there are some differences in the Japanese, obviously, the way they play the game, the Dominicans, how they play the game. So there are the Australians. There are ways that they play the game a little differently. One area that we have a tough time with internationally, and it happens in the Olympics or it happens in the World Cup, is, remember baseball still has that traditional rule where you don't bunt and run if you're up by a lot of runs by a certain inning. The problem is nobody could ever agree on how many runs and what inning. And when you play internationally, that can be a problem because everybody has different rules and ideas coming from different countries.
Well, didn't we have an instant in the last World Baseball Classic with that?
Yeah, matter of fact, I think it was about Mexico and Mexico. Was it Mexico? I can't remember the other club.
Canada. Canada, yeah.
Yeah, I believe Mexico, Canada. Yeah, and there's a situation players, even if they know the rules, sometimes, in the heat of the battle, they still revert back to their old ways. Because in certain situations, there's tiebreaker rules. And when there's tiebreaker rules, they go by runs given up or runs scored. And if you do that, then you have to understand that, you're going to bunt and run, and you're going to do certain things that you normally don't do in the game. And, my philosophy is a little different as a coach personally. My philosophy is if you can't defense it, that's your fault.
Right.
And you need to work on your defense then, because I feel like we should be able to pretty much do whatever we need to do to score runs, especially some of the collegiate teams that use wood, aluminum bats. Because 10 runs may not be enough, or 8 runs may not be enough, even with 2 innings left.
Absolutely.
So we do get into that internationally, definitely.
So does baseball / I'm going to throw in softball in there as well, but does baseball and softball return to the Olympics?
I believe it does. I'm not at the high end of really understanding all that, but the IBAF has been working extremely hard. They combine now, as with softball, and they're working really hard to get both of them together as pretty much one entity.
Right.
And I think it has a great chance. Because especially in 2020, in Japan, because the infrastructure is all set. But there could be a possibility of hopefully getting in there sooner. But I do really believe that baseball will get back in the Olympics.
I think it belongs. So baseball gets back in the Olympics. What do they do with the World Baseball Classic then?
Well, I think they still run it. They just run it at a different time. And then remember, you're not going to get your major leagues no matter what in the Olympics.
Right.
The odds of that happening are very slim to none. There's a lot of reasons for that, a lot of good reasons too. And take one, it's not like hockey where you're playing indoors, you can extend the season another week. We're already going into November with the playoffs,
right?
So that becomes very difficult. But there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think baseball, will have that chance to get back in, hopefully here in the near future.
So you mentioned earlier on, a man by the name of Dick Birmingham. And I had never, prior to speaking with you, I had never heard of Dick Birmingham. Tell our listeners about Dick.
Well, Dick's just a great human being. He was my dad, me a second dad, and he was at Hillcrest High School in Springfield, Missouri, one of the all-time winningest high school coaches in the country. And just to give you an example, the type of person he is, he's inducted, and obviously he's inducted with the ABCA, which is the American Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame, which is the best coaches in the country. He's also inducted in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame and all that, and the Baseball Hall of Fame there. But he's also inducted, which I've never heard of in my life, he's also inducted into the Iowa High School Coaches Hall of Fame. He's never coached in Iowa. That just gives you an idea of the type of person he is. He's spoken at their national clinic 14 times. They've liked him so much that they inducted him in his Hall of Fame. He has helped so many people in the game. He's introduced, people to other individuals. He's taken young people like myself, 30 years ago, and introduced me to many people, and that kind of snowballed. And if it wasn't for that, I would have certainly never been a national team coach. Certainly would have never been with the International Baseball Federation or doing anything, worldwide. And because of Dick, obviously I was able to do all that. So he's influenced so many people out there, and he's spoken all over the country and all over the world. He was, he's won some gold medals also in the Pan Am Games. Just an outstanding individual. Comes from a great family, great kids. You asked about Dick Birmingham in high school baseball, college baseball. Everybody knows him, and he's also one of the best speakers I've ever been around. And just recently, as you know, he passed away at the age of 80. It was kind of a shock, but his legacy will go on. There's Birmingham Field in Springfield, Missouri. The ABCA Hall of Fame. His name and the person definitely will never be forgotten.
Right. So, what has been the best advice given to you, baseball-wise?
I'm sorry?
What has been the best baseball advice that someone has ever given you?
Well, it was funny. I'm not sure if it was baseball, but Dick always said, "Kill him with kindness."
Absolutely.
No matter what situation, he said two things. He said, "Kill him with kindness," and prior preparation prevents poor performance. I think those two might have been the biggest two, because if you're well prepared in anything you do, you can see the best of the best are their attention to detail is second to none. And so if you're well prepared, then you're going to be extremely successful. And then the other one, what Dick meant by kill them with kindness, is, treat people nice, treat people the way you want to be treated. And that goes for umpires or anybody else, parents in the game or kids, or, and then there's times where obviously you sometimes have to get tough and you have to put your foot down a little bit. I think what he meant was, the people are human beings, and care about them. And I think those are the two things that really I took into everything I do.
Right. My producer, Brian, over here was kind of chuckling about those comments that you made, and I think I know what's going through Brian's mind. Is we have a gentleman by the name of Ad Rutschman that coached forever at Linfield College, coached football and baseball, and he says the exact same things. It's that old school, mentality, and it's correct. You're right. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and we talk to a lot of young coaches. There's things in the game that you can do differently nowadays. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can do differently. But those basic fundamentals that we just talked about, that the coaches that we may call old school, are good, just solid, people skills. And if you have good people skills, I think that those alone will help you in your career a long ways. I know they've helped me a long time. And then I take my parents. mean, not only did they, obviously my parents brought me up, both Italian, from the old country, and they brought me up to respect people. I mean, it's a simple thing as if I was at somebody's house and I'd walk across the room and the television was on, they were watching television. If I didn't say excuse me, I get slapped across the head.
Yeah.
Just being polite. And I think my parents instilled that in me, and Dick continued it, and it just it helps help my career, and I know we'll help a lot of other people.
Well, I think it's pretty awesome in what you're doing. I'm kind of I haven't seen much of the international game in person. It's definitely on my bucket list to make it to like a Caribbean World Series. Gosh, I would love to go over to Israel and check out their baseball programs and whatnot. But keep up the good work. I have some baseball cards that we'd like to donate to you as well, that you can pass out and then whatnot. And is there a website that you'd like to plug for yourself real quick?
The two websites are basically coachingmadeeasy.com, and that would be the main one. That's our coaching website where I work with coaches. And then the other one would be Caliendo Sports International. But if you Google my name, Peter Caliendo, you can come up with those, which is probably the quickest way. And thank you very much for having me. And anytime I can be of help, please call upon me.
Definitely. And I will share your Baseball Made Easy website. I work with the McMinnville Parks and Recreation here in McMinnville, and I work with their baseball program. And there's you got some great DVDs and coaches programs up and stuff like that. And I'm definitely going to be sharing your website, and hopefully, it helps with our coaches as well. So
great. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for coming on the show, and we hope to chat with you soon.
Sounds good. Okay, have a great weekend.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. So there you have Peter Caliendo, super coach. And, Brian, Ad Rutschman always says those same exact things.
He really does. I took a football coaching theory class with Ad. Exact words.
Exactly. And, it's that old school mentality, the frosty Westerlings.
Right.
And man, you can never escape from that.
No, the Ad Rutschmans that instill that in the newer school coaches, you see it still, which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Even in the guys between, Larry Doty, who was at Linfield for a long time, same type of mentality from a younger guy
Joe Smith. Yeah.
Joe Smith, exactly. So there's a lineage of that, and not only here at Linfield, but other schools, and people like Caliendo getting it from the guy that he got it from. Yeah. So it's out there, and it works. It's
Absolutely,
proven.
Absolutely. Kill them with kindness. I've heard that my entire life from my mom and dad, and honestly, who hasn't heard that?
Right.
And it is so true. And so, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think it's great to have Peter on, and seems like a neat guy, and it's great to just see people spreading the love of baseball and the love of sports and good coaching.
Absolutely. And so I'd like to plug our sponsors, basebypros.com once again, and MDM Designs. So my nice little hoodie that Mark Canham did up for me. They are for sale up on the Facebook page, and I need to know it all. We also have t-shirts. Haven't checked my email or anything like that yet, but the hat I am wearing, who is it? You have a chance to win a couple of t-shirts. First person who gets back with me on that, normbo18@gmail.com, or message us on the 980 Know-It-All Facebook page with who is it? I will give you 2 shirts. So thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm headed down to Joe Dancer Park for a day of soccer, which I'd much rather be baseball. But you know what? It's supposed to be sunny, so I'm okay with that. So I'm Norm. This is Clubhouse Chatter from Erickson Studios. Have a great weekend.